Join Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, on a journey into creativity and transformation. Each episode, Marc and his guests explore the intersection of science and spirituality to uncover ways to live a more inspired life. Together, we'll navigate both the seen and unseen realms to spark joy and personal growth. This is a community where you are empowered to discover the diamond within. Marc is an award-winning psychic medium, decorated veteran, and teacher based in Seattle. Using his intuitive gifts, he guides the curious on profound soul adventures. Now, here is your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector.
All right, hello prospecting friends, and welcome to Inspired Living. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, and I'm so thrilled to have you back and tuning in as I guide you as a fellow prospector, or what I like to call soul adventures filled with creativity, curiosity, education, encouragement, inspiration, mindfulness, motivations, manifestations, vision, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Here on this episode of Inspired Living, we will present content, stories, and interviews that will offer you a chance to ignite your dreams and passions, explore your curiosities, thoughts, and ideas, while we embrace the many wonders of both the extraordinary and the ordinary, the paranormal and the normal, along with what at first may appear as science fiction that we know eventually becomes science reality or science fact. And together through this show, we will uncover the unique diamonds within each and every one of us while discovering and revealing the many wonderful hidden gems waiting to shine in our lives, our journey, and of course, the human experience. Inspired Living is all about building a supportive community that celebrates every victory, big or small. And each episode features incredible guests like the one we have today, who have faced challenges, loss, failure, defeat, pressures, but have persevered and pursued their passions, their goals, and motivations to make a positive impact in their respective fields and make our world a much better place. So from this show, you can expect engaging discussions, diverse perspectives, thought-provoking questions, and most importantly, actionable steps to transform inspiration into your own reality. I do want to say a huge thank you to all of our inspired listeners around the globe. Your support through listening, downloading, subscribing, leaving reviews has made Inspired Living now a top choice for inspiration, introspection, and spirituality. And we are truly humbled, grateful, and appreciate each and every one of you in the Inspired Living community. If you haven't liked or followed us yet, there's still always time to do so. You can go over to our social media platforms and connect with us in the community over on Facebook. Just look for Inspired Living. You can also follow us on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X. Just look for Inspired for Us. That is the number 4. Or you can check us out on our YouTube channel, Inspired Living. And we are also now streaming through Audible and through Alexa, and of course, wherever you get your favorite podcasts from. So I like to say that for the inspired listeners out there, you are both the inspiration and the inspired. So let's embrace this journey together. Let's inspire others, and let's make every moment count before we expire. And I hope that you'll enjoy this next episode of Inspired Living, because we're having our guest back. He's been on the show a few times over the years. We've been on the air for some time now. And I'm just going to read a little bit about Michael André Ford, who is a 14-year American angel intuitive, author, and host of his own show, Angels, Positivity, and Love. He's helped people jointly hear, feel, and see angels and other loving beings in direct shared experiences designed to move people out of thinking and into their heart. Sessions may include angels, divine figures from India, Native American chiefs, galactic beings, saints, loved ones, pets, and other loving beings with answers received directly in any language or dialect. Everything is direct. And with this guest, you're going to have to keep up. He moves quick, so you might have to take a few breaths and let his information flow and let it sink in for you. He's also the author of Listening to Angels, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, Listening to Angels, which is a number one bestseller on Amazon, twice in Angels, and also endorsed by Anita Moorjani. His YouTube channel has featured hundreds of episodes, including guests like John Gray, Lorna Barron, and Evan Alexander. And if you want to learn more about who he is, what he's doing, what he does with all of this, you can go to michaelandreford.com And let's see if we can get him into the room to start talking to us about angels. You can also get his book over on Amazon. Again, it's called Listening to Angels. And again, his YouTube show, Angels, Positivity, and Love. You can go to youtube.com/Michael André Ford. Brother, welcome back to the show. So good to see you. I feel like I've been talking to you a lot lately. How you doing?
Good. Great to see you again, Mark. Thanks for having me back on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for being on. And just for the listening audience out there, because this is the first time we've done the television platform, for those that are watching live through Om Times Television, kind of let the Inspired Living community know what an angel intuitive is, what that's all about. Because there might be some new listeners who are like, what's an angel intuitive? And how does that even work with angels?
Yeah, we can kind of ditch the title. I'm just the middleman or the angel agent. I help a person slow down enough in the head to get to their heart and tap their pre-existing skills, whether they're an artist, an athlete, just a good business person, a good mom. It really doesn't matter. At some point in your life, you've been down in your heart. I'm pointing to my heart. And do what you do best, love, or being at peace, or helping others, or just being present. And that's all it takes to do basic listening, feeling, seeing. If you've ever had a conversation, which all of us have, with a best friend, a family member, a neighbor, and you've really enjoyed it, that's all this is getting out of your own way, out of the head and into the heart.
I love getting out of the head and into the heart. So tell us about your book, Listening to Angels, best-selling on Amazon. Congratulations. Give us a little insight to the book, why you wrote it, how long it took to write it, and what could we take away from this book?
Oh, thanks. A couple of appearances on Coast to Coast AM, your rival, boosted the thing on Amazon. I'd love to say that I wrote this book. It's a short one, 15 minutes to read it. It was $3.99 forever. I finally got permission from Angels. I was asking for years. I wrote it in 2014. I think it was 2 years ago. I boosted it to $7.99. But if you think I wrote it, you're giving me the greatest compliment ever. It's kind of sophisticated. It's electronic only, and it does have photos of angels. 7 angels step forward to help us all slow down and do a little bit of listening. So I have photos of angels. I gave it the old college try around 2012, 2014, took thousands of photos, handed the camera to someone else. They took photos. Nothing that I do isn't something that someone watching or listening can't do with a big heart. You gotta let go. You gotta be present. And then again, it's basic listening, feeling, seeing. The book, though, is maybe a 15-minute read. It's basically how to slow down, how to do the listening, the getting hugs, the feeling part of it. And the seeing part, that can be a stretch for a lot of us. We're not always that gung-ho when it comes to that part.
Yeah, and as I always remind my students and my listeners, we have 3 eyes in life, and I can do this because we're on the television platform. 2 to look, and then that thing we call the third eye, the brow chakra, 1 to see. And a lot of times when we close our physical eyes and we open up our spiritual eye, that's where we can start to engage with everything you're talking about. But just describe what you do in just the simplest terms for people. Like, how did this even unfold for you? How does somebody just start? A lot of times it can be the pain or the life experiences that drive us towards a certain way of being in our life. And I'm just curious how that even started to unfold for you in go back to the beginning days of, oh my gosh, I'm connecting with angels. How does that even work for somebody that's listening to the show or watching the show?
Well, I started off on the East Coast, and I, out of college, said over my dead body, I'd moved back to New York City. Of course, that was the first place I landed. 2 years, Wall Street. Fell into public relations and took to it like a duck in water. Had a long 16-year career doing business PR. I peaked out around Lehman. Did 1,100 media interviews in a single year. I'd set it up with an expert and a journalist on each side and introduced them. And they were paying me CEO pay, like 6-figure, nice paycheck. Today, that role isn't much different. We've got loving beings that if you need to view it interdimensionally, they're in you, they're around you. They're physical if you need them physical, full on human, I might add. If you're that lucky and that loosey-goosey, you want to let go that far, you can see them as a human out and about town. And that's full on touching and so on. But today, instead of journalists and an expert or venture capitalist or a lawyer, it's an angel on one side, it's a human being on another. And you're right. It seems like a lot. I tell dad jokes. I'll light sage, and I'm grabbing sage and a feather at this end in Texas. I'll blow smoke through the screen to someone, and they'll smell sage or tobacco or something sacred. And then I'll show light on my hands. It's just seeing auras. And I'd kind of argue that it's present on everything around you. You're already seeing it. But mankind, especially Americans, our big currency these days, it's a lot of thinking and a lot of knowing that precludes possibility. And that's the only thing speeding you up, keeping you up in the brain. I'll flip the pancake here a little and say it differently. You can be happy now in this very moment without a single reason. And that's kind of a hand grenade, or that's the rub, because most of us are too busy. We got kids, we got bills, we got a hard job, stress, health condition. How could that possibly, be allowed? And so that's the rub, and that's what I help people do is slow up enough to tap their inner potential, what they've already got.
So when you're helping somebody, do your clients actually describe? So I always talk about, as a medium, we can see the spirit world one of two ways: objectively or subjectively. So subjectively is going to be here in our mind's eye, which we call clairvoyance. And then, of course, objectively is going to be with the actual physical eye. So when you're working with clients, do you have clients that actually will see them objectively versus subjectively, or a combination of both? And how do they respond to something like that? Because I remember my first angel experience with we talked about this recently on your show, when I came face to face with a three-story tall angel behind a waterfall, and it was quite intimidating. It was like, holy, and I was seeing this objectively with my physical eye, not my clairvoyant eye. And it took me back, because it was just so grand and so not scary, but it was just like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Because we see it, and then the analytical mind goes, are you really seeing it? Are you kind of debunking that? Or is it just the way the water's moving? Are you just making out an image in the waterfall? But it was a three-story angel in the waterfall staring back at me. How do you take us through that, how somebody would respond to that, either subjectively or objectively, with angels?
I hold the space, but it's really kind of angels and other loving beings flowing through me to let others relax a little more and, again, tap what they've got. If you want to do a baseball analogy, I help people round the bases, and I make sure they get some batting practice and they hit a couple home runs. But we always start off with bunts and some singles and some catching, and we do some practice first before we get out on the field. So all this is sort of a warm up until I sense that the person's ready to let go. And the listening for a few seconds might be their own voice coming in at first. It could be your grandmother coming in. I always like to start with angels, and I've got an angel named Joy. I'll hold up a photo for those who are watching. That's an actual angel named Joy, electronic light energy form angel. Joy. She's the emotion Joy. It's the first one I always start off with. But you look at the photo, you ask a question. I do this most softball question for 15 years now. Hey, what do I need to know in life right now, Joy? That way it's not attached to bills, stress, my cousin Vinny, anything that's like difficult. We don't start with the hard stuff. And you hear a little whisper. If you're in a panic, you're freaking out, you hear relax, you hear breathe. And again, it might be your voice for a few seconds, but the second you just take it down one little notch, like settling in on the tennis court, or to watch a football game, but you're coming from work, you can't shed work, you can't enjoy watching your NFL team. Once you let go, the full voice comes in. And then once that happens, part of you wants all your answers. It's how fast can you write? 48, 49 pages in 9 hours is the record. And Australians, for some reason, seem to be number one on the planet for doing this. We're about 5th or 6th as countries go. They just seem to be like, hey, shh, I got this. And they're off to the races listening. The hugs are cool. Very first one feels like a goosebump. But once you let go, you feel waves of light passing through you. And once it's like getting into a pool. You're nervous, it's kind of cold, or you just haven't been in a pool in a while. It's a pool party, you're shy. Most of us don't cannonball in, although, half the viewers probably could. Once you realize the hugs are actually energy and you can get healing from it, that's a conversation strictly between you and angels. I stay out of medical conditions. I don't hear what it is. I teach you to do your own listening, to have that what's addressable, what's kind of written Middle East style, Lawrence of Arabia. What are you not stuck with, but what did you sign up for? And then again, what's malleable? What can we change? And so angels will talk to you directly about that. You can get any answer to any question, which if you're a business person, they're very realistic about this. They know what they want. They know how to do basic listening. They've got laser-like focus. I kind of would argue, though, that if you're an athlete, it's being in the zone. You know it that way. An artist, a musician, it's also being in the zone, the flow, the artistic flow. How do bandmates know when to keep going? The song was supposed to end. They've got a crowd. They look at each other. and they know they should keep going, extend it by 3 minutes. They just do it non-verbally, and they're, playing their instruments. They're in some sort of a collective slipstream of consciousness. That's what you're sliding into. And most of us experience it even 10 times every day, but we don't give ourselves credit for it. It's flipping the light switch, taking a shower, driving. A lot of times we fade out for a mile or so, and we've just been in the zone. So I help a person slow down to get out of the thinking, the hardcore judging. Basically, it's fear-based stuff. The brain, not that helpful.
Yeah, and I like the analogy being it's baseball season, and the pool analogy, because sometimes you get in the pool and it'd be like, oh, that's a little bit colder than I thought, a little bit of take the breath away kind of thing. So really, you talk about going direct too. And what do you mean going direct? So let's say somebody is seeing the show or listening to this podcast, and they've got a really, skeptic mindset, which I think it's always healthy to have that skepticism and let the spiritual world or what is unseen show you and educate you in this process. But what would you say to somebody that says, I just, I can't get out of my own way. I can't get my thoughts to stop. I don't really believe in angels. What do you do with somebody that comes to you that's like that? That's just, they're coming to you for a reason, right? So they're curiosity, but maybe a little bit of fear-based energy of, well, I don't want to open up something like angels, because if there's angels, then the skeptic might say, well, then there's got to be a balance, and must be demons, right? Angels and demons, that whole conversation. What do you do with that in today's world, with that skepticism and the people that might say something like that to you, and for the listening audience that might be thinking that?
Really not much, because you can't take any steps for anyone else. If they're truly interested, they've got kind of a threshold they have to cross. Do they want change, or do they want more of the same? A lot of people are moving very fast, and they might be suffering or experiencing pain or difficulties in some department, but they also might not be ready for the change. It's basically allowing with a capital A. And when it comes to the seeing part, that can be jaw-dropping. I help a person see a little bit, maybe in the photograph or a historical photograph. If it's Audrey Hepburn, she's an angel. You might see her move, wink, smile, eyebrow goes up, shoulder waggle. And that's a pretty big, your brain says, I didn't just see that. Your heart says, oh my God, what a great smile. And we know photographs can't move, but it's a little baby step towards helping a person open up more. Then you can see light, like on the ceiling, out in the sky, underneath a tree, if you're looking out into nature. But the full-on part is where I save that for after the person's rounded the bases. It's kind of the grand slam. You get to see an angel or two, and then Jesus, Mary, if you're into Buddha. Oh, there's a lot of cultural figures here. It's probably like 400 figures from across the globe, passed over loved ones, but Wayne Dyer and other figures like that, Plato, Marcus Aurelius. The full-on seeing part is a bit of a shock at times, and people do this jointly, so I truly feel like I'm off the hook.
Okay. And do you find, when you say doing it jointly, do you find that there's more power? Like I've always found in my own spiritual growth collective, when people gather in our collective and we focus on one intent, and I believe that, when you said intent, energy follows the intention. Do you find it a little bit more amplified with when you have more people, or just you and your client working in just one session as two people? Do you find that the more people there are, the stronger the experience might be based on just the collective, or I think
there's a comfort zone in doing it with others, as long as they're having a good time, relaxed, laughing. I mean, laughter's love, smiling is love, dancing is love, just moving about a little bit, do a shimmy. Dad jokes are love. I think humans find a way to make things tough, complex, and the heart keeps everything simple. The heart is already there. This isn't really about gaining anything or losing anything. We get to move past seeing the negative. This isn't about measured science or all the structural stuff in society. We've done too much of that. This is about getting back to basics. And I think the best way to describe it is your own intuitive voice. I think we've all had one our whole life. We've seen it in Magnum PI, that show from the 1980s. His little intuitive voice, it technically was a spiritual show. What do you think that voice is? It's not always your higher self soul. It might be your grandmother. It might be a guardian angel at the key points. Now, the voice, when it told you to hop into somebody else's Jag and go 200 miles an hour down the highway, steal a Jag, that's the other side of the equation. I'm talking the good voice, the good suggestions. And I'll only do it this way, like a golf course. You're playing a community tournament. You're pretty good at golf. You're on the 17th hole. You happen to find yourself in the lead, and you're telling yourself, let's crush it. Let's finish strong. You're feeling good. So you go line up for the stroke. Now, if your favorite aunt came in who's passed over and said, smack that ball, or your guardian angel, and you heard a foreign voice come in, I think you'd shank the ball. You might even drop the club, hop in the cart, and find the nearest psychiatrist. So you might not even play golf again. The trauma would be so big. So I'm kind of going to make the argument that half your life, or half the intuitiveness that you've had, is actually your cheerleading squad, your loving relatives. Even your pets can talk to you. And do your living pet, Fido, my Fido's locked in a closet right now, but they're like third graders. Cats are like sixth graders. You can hear them. And I would argue half the dog mamas, dog parents, cat parents are like, no, I talk to my pets. I hear them too.
Yeah. And I can definitely resonate with that scenario, because we just had to put our fur baby down at 14 years, had to help him cross the Rainbow Bridge because he had, kidney failure. And it's just amazing how much I talk to him now that he's gone physically, but I know in the work that I do that he's very much around, and he's made his presence known through, signs, symbols, synergies, and synchronistic events. But you miss that communication. And sciences and studies are showing that actually humans can grieve their fur babies more than actually other humans, which is interesting because we do talk to them and interact with them a lot. And I like you said, I like how you're describing some of the visuals, the baseball reference, the swimming reference, the picture reference as well. Because I think, pictures are always interesting. And for the listening audience out there, I always say, if you want to try, working with this, and what Michael's going to do is he's going to show some different pictures here if you're watching through the television platform. But pictures say 1,000 words. And I always, before I got into my spiritual practice, I always thought, well, that's kind of interesting. Why do people say that? And then we started doing some exercises in group of just looking at a picture, and all of a sudden, all the stories and the memories start to come from that one picture. And so, visually, we're taking in information, but then we're connecting somewhere higher in our brain through the pineal gland, the construction of that communication, but they're not speaking a physical vibrational voice because they don't have any matter of a physical voice. So you're like, well, how does this even work? So it's always been fascinating for the listening audience. Just grab a picture of your loved one or your fur baby or of a location and see what information comes to you through that concept of a picture says 1,000 words. And that's always been kind of curious to me, like, where did that concept come from? But in your experience, do you believe that everybody has an intuitive abilities to do this, to connect with angels or to connect with something bigger than themselves? Because the voice we hear in our head, we talk to ourselves the most, right? But how do we discern between that higher self voice and the voice of spirit or the voice of an angel?
Well, angels are definitely available for everybody. And it's kind of like asking, how do you know a good cup of coffee? So I'm pretty sure science could debate that question to no end and go measure every coffee bean across the planet, determine standards, actually set up a whole science around the coffee, set up the market for it and the rest, including regulations, restrictions, and so on, and worry about the labeling as well. At the end of the day, it's just take your baby steps, trust what you know. I think everyone out there has been good at business at some point, has a passion, art, music, athletics, or they're just a great mom or a parent, or they love their dog. And so how do you know you love your dog? And then the other way to flip this pancake again is look at your thinking. The thinking is the elephant in the room or the gorilla that's 900 pounds. Thinking is what rules the roost. You can think about walking your dog. And maybe if you do, you still carry your cell phone, your iPhone with you, and you don't really walk your dog. When you leave it behind and you're actually present with your dog loves you. You have a good time. You want to walk the dog again. Most of us view it as a chore, like mowing the grass. So one is being in the heart and one is being unconscious. And we spend a lot of time worrying, thinking, and stuff like that. So the first step for everything is learning to understand the difference in the slipstreams or the flows or the unflow or the unconsciousness in the head. From the neck up, most of it doesn't get anything done. When you're in your heart, without a thought, is when you hit the home run, when you write the poem, when you play that music, when you get the great business idea singing in the shower, and so on. So this is about where are you putting yourself? If there's just a couple things that I learned in 15 years, it's where you put your focus is where you put it. How you spend your energy is how you spend it. And guess what? You're already making those decisions daily. If you want to pay attention a little more, one angel named Charlotte said 10% less thinking is the gold medal, the Olympic gold medal daily, 10% less thinking. So that's it. No, thinking's not going away. You don't have to go do anything. Even if you're agreeing with me, it's probably just more thinking. So don't worry, there's nothing to do here. It's just paying attention a little more awareness. That's what you want to cultivate or grow, not your thinking.
Yeah, I love that. Strong words too. Awareness, presence, focus. You know, obviously with the Star Wars posters behind me here in the studio, I'm a big fan of George Lucas and the movie business of Star Wars. And one of his comments that he always talked about was your focus does determine your reality. And so the things that you start to focus on, you can become. And I've always found that kind of fascinating with my own journey, because when I started doing this, I had a really tough time with some of the stuff I was seeing, knowing, downloading, connecting to. Mediumship, trance, psychic, which means of the soul. And it really was kind of an uncomfortable place to be. And so a lot of times we have to unlearn what we've learned to relearn the new concepts of what's coming in, like awareness, like focus, like listening, like stillness, like presence, and everything that you're talking about. And again, your focus does determine your reality. So we're going to go to our first and only break. And Michael, when we come back, we're going to pick up this conversation because I got a lot more questions, and these shows go by so very, very fast. But I also want to talk about everything what's going on with extra dimensional beings, aliens, UFOs. How does that, coincide with angels? It's a conversation we had just the other day on your show, because I think some people out there are going to be asking the same question that's historically going back centuries for angels. And we'll talk about other things like ascended masters, inspirers. How do those work with, the angels as well? So stick around, everybody. This is Inspired Living. Our special guest today is Michael André Ford. You can learn more about him through all of our social media posts we have out there. You can also go to michaelandreford.com. And of course, your YouTube channel. You're very busy on YouTube. You do a lot of shows. You're very, very busy. So stick around. We're going to be back here in just 2 minutes, and we're going to get into the second half of this show of Listening to Angels with our special guest today, Michael André Ford. We'll be right back here on Inspired Living.
Om Times TV. Billions of people walk this earth, yet there is only one you. Life offers endless connections, lessons, and moments of awakening. Are you ready to explore the beauty of this world, the healing energy that surrounds you, and your own soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, known as the Intuitive Prospector, is a trusted guide on that path. An internationally recognized psychic medium, medical intuitive, and spiritual advisor, Marc blends experience with heart-centered insight. From decorated veteran and first responder to teacher, minister, author, podcast host, and mentor, his journey has been one of service and discovery. His mission is simple: to help you awaken, heal, grow, and uncover the diamond within while discovering the hidden gems life has placed around you. Dare to explore. Dare to rise. Learn more at marclainhart.com and discover the Intuitive Prospector online. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse, walk a mile in my shoes.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Inspired Living. Our special guest today is André Ford. He is an angel and an author. He is also the host of Angels Positivity and Love Show. Jointly hear, feel, and see angels and other loving beings in direct shared experiences designed to move people out of thinking and into your heart, which we need more of that in today's age. And during the break, Michael, I was thinking of a quote from Michelangelo. Traveled to see the famous paintings of Michelangelo, and he said, "I saw the angel in the marble until I set him free." And I was just thinking, wow, that's, even back then, at that time, the influence of angel, something bigger than ourselves and divinity, based on the concept of the historic nature of angels. But what I wanted to talk to you about is everything going on right now in society. Here on Inspired Living, we've talked about UAP, UFO, extra dimensional beings. We've even done side-by-side comparisons. What's the difference between an extra dimensional being and an angel? Is there a difference? Because there's a lot of similarities based on what they do. And it's interesting because yesterday there was some pretty big reveal on disclosure of, the biggest, I think one of the biggest questions out there: are we alone on this planet or the universe? And the gentleman speaking said, quote, "It's a continuum from corporal bipedal type life to what I would consider a like sentient plasmoid life, but there are several that the US government is aware of." And when we start talking versus carbon-based life form versus plasma-based life form, because some people have it, describe seeing angels with kind of like this plasma electricity, almost like they're morphing in and morphing out. What would you say to people with everything that's going on in society right now, with all of this disclosure, and are we alone? And how would people discern between an extra dimensional being and an angel? And is there a difference?
It's a great question. I think it's kind of an eternal question in one sense. I think everyone has to address it in their own way, or follow their heart on this one. But I mean, I've got a concrete answer. It's a lot of people out there. This is mankind, the scientific community, the people who have mucked up a lot of stuff to date. And think about science for a second. Any discovery is only good for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 years, maybe 20 years before another one bumps it out of the way. And they're very critical of each other. There's a lot of judging going on. So I would argue on the simplicity side that angels just are. There's no time and space for them. They can appear in all shapes, colors, forms. A butterfly, a little ball of light right in your field. I see them that way. I see them inside kind of my eye as they skate by. You can see them as full-on humans where they're actually at your Starbucks. I had an angel named Charlotte show up that way. And instead of asking who killed Kennedy years later, there's Charlotte in light energy form. I'm holding up a blue ball of light. It says Charlotte underneath. Charlotte showed up and she was drinking coffee. I asked the important questions again, not who killed Kennedy, but do they drink the coffee when they're here? And the answer is yes. So I've had angels showing up before I ever knew I was intuitive. I threw a lot of doubles and backgammon, and I had little things happen in my teens and high school, college, stuff like that. But I never would have known anything about the Oprah Winfrey spiritual world, this intuitiveness stuff. So I treat it very lighthearted because I believe everybody has a big heart. But my point on this is she said, yes, she actually was drinking the coffee when here. And there are light beings, which are like whales, if angels are like dolphins. And there are galactic beings, whether you want to call them interdimensional. Are they physically stuck in bodies? It'll take them 4,000 years to travel here? No. They can just sort of put their focus and be present in whatever form you need. Most of us just need a little voice, and not much more than that. We get jittery. So that's the way you'll get it. I've got Pleiadian lights showing up 40 to 60 miles north of my house out of this one beautiful window, a guest bedroom upstairs. It's been 4 or 5 nights out of the last 16 nights. I see these beautiful lights, a little like the Phoenix lights from 25, 40 years ago, a little less organized that way, where 1 or 2 show, another one shows. Sometimes they go like this. It's not helicopter. It's not an airplane. I'm hearing while I'm seeing. And a household member's getting a really high, happy voice like, hello. So it's very cute. I just think it's all about love. Love's the fabric of the universe. There are hundreds of experts. You're going to get flooded. You're going to get overwhelmed. You're going to get panicked. There's going to be fear mongering. There's going to be every detail they're telling you using the expression bipedal or other scientific terminology. It is just love and above. And how would you treat your grandmother, aunt, your twin, anybody coming in, your pet dog, who wants to say hello from the other side? They're around you. They're more love, less thinking. We're more thinking. And we have potential to be more loved. And so how would you treat them? And I'm not talking any negativity or complexity, but just catch yourself before you go down the fear, getting stuck in the brain, pulse racing, and you're worried. I tried to figure out angels for 2 years. I got this far. I'm holding up 2 fingers showing a centimeter. And I got nowhere, basically. It's just trust that angels exist, your answers, your hugs, and much more will come. And the same goes for Pleiadians, people from Andromeda, Orion, Arcturians, what else? Lyrans, I'm skipping one. There's one more in there somewhere. Sirius. Angels started giving their background about 2 years ago, and it was a lot for me at the time. I'm like, angels. The brain wants to have fixed terminology. It wants to know the rules of Monopoly, and it doesn't want the rules to change. And unfortunately, you can only handle so much at a time. My guardian angel, this silhouette of an angel, full-on silhouette, very watery. She's got a background from Sirius, an angel today, which is a really broad cosmic thing. And there are no limits. So you knew it as a kid. I think some people know it as an adult, at least when they're painting, singing, performing soccer on the pitch, the soccer field, when you're in the zone, even playing a video game. But as soon as thinking kicks in, that's when the machine coughs and sputters. And that's when fear sneaks in, or judging, or resisting, reacting, all those things that are less than love.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that perspective, because I agree with you. I think, and we've talked about this previously, I think there's going to be a lot of fear-based energy, because we're a culture, we're a species built on fear, right? As somebody that worked as a retired first responder, we'd always see when somebody was having a bad day, all the looky-loos, everybody wanted to stop and see why this person is in a predicament or having a bad day. And that fear-based, watching somebody else go through misery or fear. And so I would say to the listening audience, as we unfold in a very pivotal time of history, a tipping point, if you will, a new perspective of consciousness, don't move into that fear-based energy. I always like to say fear is false evidence appearing real. And we have a lot of that in our world, because that's what sells, right? Even just a little bit off topic here, but I just watched an interview with Steven Spielberg, who's getting ready to release his conclusion of his movie's Disclosure Day. And he even said, I wanted to make a movie that was more thought-provoking versus fear-based, because he knew that fear-based movies sell more in Hollywood than this Disclosure Day, which is getting a lot of traction and some very good positive reviews. And I'm going to it on Saturday to see his storytelling. But for him to say that, like, he knows if he made a fear-based movie, it would actually do better in society. Like War of the Worlds was more fear-based, and he didn't want to tell that type of story with what he's now claiming. This is built on a foundation of facts and truth versus fiction, even though it's a movie. So this drip, drip, drip of something bigger than ourselves, some people are going to say, well, what is the difference between an angel? What's the difference between an extra dimensional being? What's the difference between an ascended master or an inspirer, or somebody that's part of your own spiritual guides, if you will? Because there's a lot of different names out there, right? How would you say, what would you describe as an intuitive and what you do? How would you know that you're having an angel contact versus an extra dimensional being contact, or a spirit guide, or a ascended master, or, because there's so many different thoughts out there. There's so many different religions. There's like, 5,000 different religions around the planet. So everybody's going to have different ideas. What would you say to the listening audience to say, this is an angel, this is how they would come to us and communicate with us? Or, I know you're saying through love, but how do you define all those different labels that are out there? Well,
it's really tough for certain communities. If you're science, you're probably not going to allow for any of this. In 14 or 15 years, we've only gotten to be able to help like a couple neuroscientists briefly or extended, a couple others. It's where are you putting yourself? So, but if you're Buddhist, do you really actually want to meet and hear Buddha? You would think the answer is categorically yes. Same thing with Catholic. Do you want to meet God's part of the crew? I just described God as all voices at once coming in. You kind of have to be really loosey-goosey for that. You've already been talking to angels, meeting a few relatives, getting your answers, feeling comfortable, just being open. And it can be the scariest thing in the world, because if you've got issues you're holding on to as crutches in life, I'm not trying to ever tell anybody how to think or roll. You're good where you are right now. It's really falling into that and trusting more that everything around you, there's a reason. Everything is your instruction. Do you want to pay attention? And there are three very parallel sources Peaceful Warrior, the movie, the gymnastics movie, it's very spiritual. Seth, the light being who kind of kicked off the New Age stuff from the 1970s, Jane Roberts, and also Esther Hicks. They all talk about the nature of reality. Nothing externally is going to help you with this. Nothing. Not a movie, not the experts telling you how it is. It's going to be found through the world you thought you knew into a broader reality through your heart, into a much more loving, much more open. It's opening openness, the Tibetan expression, if you're into Tibet stuff. So what I'm saying here is, I mean, it's more like a barbecue. If you go to a barbecue, Jesus is literally in jeans, white shirt for you, if you wish, casual, humorous, a lot of humor here, a lot of love, very casual, very loving, knows how to, so you can have any answer, any question, all languages, all dialects done, plus humor, but something that goes unstated. They know how to navigate your personality, how every second of your life has been spent to get around your fears, to get around your resistance places. Oh, I don't do sushi on Tuesdays. I only like the Las Vegas Raiders. I only do baseball. I don't do NBA, unfortunately. Go Spurs. My point in this is they know how to navigate your personality to say everything just the right way so it's a bullseye every time. And that's where you know it's a good cup of coffee. That's where you're having an experience where you're like, shh, I got this. You have to learn to like do the tricycle with the training wheels or no training wheels, then bike with training wheels. And so I'm just going to tell you, you're already a Tour de France cyclist, world-class Olympian cyclist. You just don't think you are. Some people are. They're cocky or they just know how to. The younger folks. I had a woman once from a country in Europe, but her daughter came along. Daughter was so fast, I couldn't finish the stated like, hey, do this. And they got it done. And they're like, what's next, with a smile on their face? I was like, oh my God, I got to invent like new exercises. They were just wide open and like, meh, like a dolphin in water. They were done. They were just like, boop, 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 got it all done.
Picked up what you're putting down. And, you know, and thank you for sharing that perspective, because, you know, in this journey of doing this for almost 20 years now, it really is learn, unlearn, learn, unlearn. Move past your biases, move past your, you know, because we all have our conscious biases, right? We all have our barriers, we have our learned behaviors, our maybe religious beliefs. But in this journey, when you have an interaction with something that's bigger than yourself, you have to unlearn and relearn. And that's really the journey that I have learned through this, is by listening, but also connecting. And, you know, Paulo Coelho, who's written several books over the years, he had talked about saying, no, I never saw an angel, but it's irrelevant whether I saw one or not, because I can feel their presence around me. And that's what I'd say to the audience today is move more into feeling and knowing, which we call claircognizance. And that feeling, which is really based around the heart-centered emotion of the chakra, is to feel versus try to think it through. So if it's fear-based, observe it, don't absorb it, and then ask questions, and you'll usually get a response back. But that's part of that, like you said, before you can ride the bike, you need to learn how to ride the tricycle, and then take the training wheels off and move to something bigger. So give yourself patience and grace along the way with these experiences. Because like I said, when I shared the waterfall experience with an angel that I saw, which I felt to be a little bit intimidating, but they're not trying to intimidate us. They're trying to make us aware of their presence. And sometimes that can be intimidating based on our own, how we receive it, right? But like when I was saying about the questions with the extra dimensional beings versus angels, because those balls of light that you show on your cards that you're holding up, those balls of light are very similar. Even the color with Charlotte blue was very similar to my experience in my Coast Guard days. And it felt very angelic. It felt very divine. It felt very inviting. It felt very, it wasn't fear-based. It wasn't scary. And it really kind of, you know, retrained my mind to say, well, there's more than meets the eye here. And so
it was a Palladian influence for you, and they weren't there to scare you. And you did have that very special connection. And they were doing impossible, separating, you know, into different colors and stuff, and then back. Someone listened in on your behalf, and they just said, yeah, no, we weren't there to scare you. It was a heartwarming experience, or it should have been.
Well, and you also talked about they'll work with our perception. They'll work around, because it's always free will and choice, right? But sometimes, and we talked about this on your show, I felt like Roy from Close Encounters of the Third Kind. When I had this event, I didn't ask for this to happen. It just happened. And then I, you know, years later, I'm still pondering, like, what did I experience? What did I feel? What did I see? What did I know? And, you know, for some of the listeners out there, you may have already had this experience, or you're going to have this experience. And again, approach it with observation, not fear-based energy, and you'll have a much more accepting reality of what's going on. Because again, just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not here and all around us. There's many things that we can talk about that science and spirituality work hand in hand together. That's why that's what I do, is because I do try to bring the science into the spirituality, which is very different from religion. But for your journey, where do you see us going with this, as far as technology continues to evolve, AI, consciousness? How do you feel that angels, like, one of my theories is I believe that technology will allow us to connect to things quantum that we don't necessarily understand by the laws of physics today, that we'll actually start to understand and see physically, objectively, based on our technology, based on our AI, based on quantum fourth dimensional construct thinking. Where do you see in the future that angels may reveal themselves in a more global aspect to more and more people around the world? Because there are reports of people seeing more and more phenomenon, whether that's angels or UAP, people are experiencing, and I believe that we're moving into a shift. Where do you see us going with that?
Well, I'd like to do two quotes first, one from Star Wars, one from Galileo, that I think will help us. One is when Obi-Wan Kenobi was talking to Luke in that original 1977 film. Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend on our own point of view. And the Galileo one is, we cannot teach people anything. We can only help them discover it within themselves. I love those two quotes because it sets the tone here. So look, yeah, there's a lot of externalities, but at the end of the day, only you can do the, it's like an undergraduate degree. I'm quoting an angel here. It's the epilogue in my book, an angel named Dale, who coached an Olympic athlete who won a lot of golds. He put life for humans into an undergraduate degree, graduate degree metaphor. You got to have one before the other. The undergraduate degree, and you kind of had it as a kid, had it stripped away. You knew there was a difference between being up here and down here. One's the hot stove, one's judging. It's fear-based. It's knowing to the preclusion of possibility. It's the number one currency on the planet right now for humans, but not for the Indonesian fisherman who's at peace, or the mom who's cuddling their infant and in love, or walking the dog but no iPhone. The other is down here, where all is possible, no limits. Again, you knew it as a kid, but once adulting kicks in, trauma, PTSD, somebody passes away, you lose a job, health, 1,000 reasons not to be down here. So you're asking the people who would allow for conflict and who don't distribute resources very well or govern very well. You're asking them to handle disclosure for a loving universe with loving beings in it that just want to help us out. I, again, would just say, go real slow with everything you see or hear. But remember that if you just took a nap on the grass, the dream that you have, it might be that relative plus a really shiny, sparkly-eyed person, or on the city street of Boulder, or you're in Paris or Christchurch. A sparkly-eyed stranger comes right up and says just what you were talking about yesterday. You feel a huge rush of delight through you. You turn and they're gone. Or maybe you get to have a full 1 hour conversation with them. You can do that. Put it out to the universe and be like, angels, I would love for you to intercept me on the way to the post office, dry cleaners, and do tea for an hour. Why not? What will you allow for is what this comes down to. And most of us prefer the controlled science, fear. We want the movie instead. We want the short version. We want somebody else to do our steps for us. And I'm afraid all of the change that we're referring to is already here. It's actually the earth. It's the flow, the force from Star Wars. I'll do Yoda's voice in a second. But it's just, love is a constant. It never fluctuated. It's within us and around us, like the force from Star Wars. And it's really you getting out of your own head that's the disclosure happening. And with your permission, Yoda's voice, just to make people laugh. Do not. There is no try.
Well done. Well done. And you're talking about coffee. I just made myself a nice cup of coffee because I'm in coffee capital of the world, right? Seattle. But I appreciate you saying that, because there is just so much fear-based energy out there, so many thoughts around fear. And here on Inspired Living, we really try to promote, motivation, encouragement, love, community, thinking outside the box. And what do you think one of the biggest misunderstandings when it comes to angels or awakening or spirituality? Where do you think people just get a misunderstanding or label it and then don't even pursue it?
All of it. even the spiritual circles themselves. It's so much easier than people make it out to be. There are no rules or regulations. I do have one rule or bit of structure. It's set your intent. What would you do before you get on the soccer field or play tennis or to do a piece of art? So just setting your intent, something like angels, get me out of my head, into my heart. You can add extra, like help me have a great day, or meet fun people, or specific stuff. Thank you, Om Sai Ram, amen, rock and roll, whatever way you roll. Practice setting your intent. Where are you going to put yourself, here or up here? Do you want your, PhD, PhD, whoops. As soon as you understand the difference, you're off to the races. You have a unique life path. Angels are here to help you out. And I have one quick last little passage before maybe I can light some sage for you or show some light on my hands. Breathe more fully, feel the universe, absorb insight from within, relax and learn, awaken to a bigger reality. I'd argue that reality has always been there. You had it as a kid, and it's maybe the frequencies getting turned up on Earth. We're getting a little extra energetic assistance, a little more love pushed our way, sparkles. So what you can pay attention to is what you can pay attention to, not much more. You're busy, you got bills, the cousins, the kids, the car isn't working. There's a lot of ways to get distracted. Welcome to ego. The sooner you spot your thinking, the sooner you can breathe more fully. And I got one quick tip on that. Offer your ego a hug. Give it a name if you want. Give it a soccer player name, an opera singer name, Fittipaldi, Formula One race car driver, anything you want. And you start to feel the world's tightening up on you. You've got heavy thoughts. That's not you. It's thinking. It's a global slipstream of unconsciousness, which unfortunately is why war and complexity and all the other stuff happens. So when you feel that, if you can spot it, you can offer a hug to your ego. Give it a good name. Mr. Higglesworth, how are you today? I used that one a long time ago. I think it was 10 years ago. I'm in my kitchen in Austin, Texas, a 20-ounce Starbucks mug filled with coffee. And I was like, I've taught this. I should probably use it. I'm not feeling like these are my thoughts. Mr. Higglesworth, how are you today? Would you like a hug? And I did it. Every fire alarm, top to bottom in my house, went off in that split second. I was shaking. Had it been a year earlier, I'm still a babe in the woods today, but back then a real wide-eyed babe in the woods. I would have dropped that mug, splashes everywhere. I called my lifeline south of the city of Austin, a psychic who had been around the block. She's like, you were just too pushy. It was 51% pushiness, 49% love. You got to be 50% or more love. We mean the hug. And the ego will say, no thanks to love. It is unlove. It cannot be love. So it'll give you at least a 2 to 10 minute break.
Beautiful. Yeah, awaken to a bigger reality. And the ego, I always tell my students, name your ego, because then you're aware of the counter thought that you're having and the barriers. For the time that we have left, do you want to do some sage? You want to do some light real quick? We got about a few minutes before we close. If you want to just do it real quick.
And I've got a red-tailed hawk feather up here, one of those rainbow shells with a crate and barrel tea light in there. The sage is from Juniper Ridge. I think you can get it at any Whole Foods still on Amazon. And I'm just lighting it. You got a flame going. And now, burn my finger. Yay. Give yourself permission to let go. And it's your heart doing the smelling, no matter where you are in the world and what year it is that you're watching. Let angels, the universe, your relatives, your cheerleading squad bring it to you. And why settle for linear and just catch the sage smoke? Close your eyes if you need to close your eyes. Allow for flowers to come in, then Hawaii or Bethany Beach in Delaware or Rehoboth, whatever one's yours. Allow for what you can allow for. Hear waves. It can be a 4-dimensional, 5-dimensional thing. If you need extra help, breathe through your mouth. 1 millimeter open, shoulders up and down, count as breathing. 1 out of 100 people is a professional nose breather. Okay, do it your way. All of this is like that 80s commercial, Burger King. You got to have it your way.
Got to have it your way.
Okay,
you roll.
So I'm going to trust that people got that. If you could put a comment in, emoji if you're shy. Check it out. Go to video if you're only listening. Look at the smoke. I do it on a lot of my shows. I forget once in a while. And then I'll try to show light on my fingers. It's the movie Celestine Prophecy did it in the movie this way. And they were doing it in the 1970s before the movie existed. Healers and so on. In India, they do like a tent. I'll tell a dad joke. It's totally relevant to which city you're in right now and what you're drinking. Santa's reindeer, Blitzen Dancer, just those two. Why do they drink so much coffee? Because they're Santa's Starbucks. If you're laughing, you're letting go. See a little filament of light between my fingers. And it should be clear, white, green, yellow. You'll see something. What are you getting?
For me, I get a little bit more. Well, there's shadow, but I get green in there. There's a shadow of your fingers, but I get green in between there, and then yeah,
You can
just
let
a
an
spot.
object come in. Ask
Yeah,
Jesus, Mary, Muhammad, angels, light beings to make something extra in there. People have gotten flowers, birds, balls of light. What are you getting now?
definitely little balls of light.
That's good. People can play it over or visit one of my, I think we did it yesterday or we've done it
We did
before. Yeah. So there's always more in you and around you. The movie Peaceful Warrior, gymnastics, but totally spiritual. Check that one out. It'll help crack you open a little. Eckhart Tolle books, Don Miguel Ruiz. But the Listening to Angels book was penned by angels. If you don't mind angel writing, and it's only 15 minutes to read it.
Okay. Yeah, I love that. And Michael, thank you for being on the show, sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your education and your insight to angels and listening to angels and connecting to angels. A lot of good diamonds in this show. So make sure to check out Michael at michaelandreford.com. You can get him on our social media pages. You can get him on YouTube. He's very, very busy with his show, so make sure to check that out. Do a session with him so you can get those visuals like we were doing on the platform today. If you're listening to the podcast, you won't get those visuals, but you can contact him directly to get those visuals. So Michael, thank you so much, brother. Good to see you again. Thanks for being on Inspired Living. We appreciate you. And I just want to say to the listening audience, there's no religion is higher than kindness. There's no scripture that's deeper than compassion, and there's no ritual it's more sacred than love that Michael was talking about today, and that is the power of love. And we'll see you next time here on Inspired Living. And until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Most importantly, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. Discover the diamond within, and you'll definitely discover the many hidden gems that are all around us. We'll see you next time here on Inspired Living.